Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the top 7 pieces of advice if you want to enter the cannabis space. On the line with us is Dan Chemist, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
Good morning, Chronic. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. All right. So according to this Benzinga article, 2019 cannabis employment is supposed to have risen by 34%. And so that's actually according to the Marijuana Business Daily, but reported by Benzinga. And so if you want to get into the industry, here's some 7 pieces of advice from top professionals. Number 1 is network. I would definitely advise finding any type of event, meetup, groups, whatever. Basically, just try to get in there as the way to kind of get into any kind of platform, whether it's a cannabis tech meetup or otherwise. Basically, the first step to carving out a space for yourself in cannabis, according to the article.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is go touch people and let them know that you got some skills and that you got some passion. And what's so funny is, like at the Cannabis Expo we just came back from, the whole scientific exploration thing there. It's like my interview with Woodrow, somebody down on the floor who's looking for a gig, who's running around touching people saying, I'm good, I'm looking for a gig. I dig that. So yeah, network.
Mm-hmm. So the second piece of advice is find a mentor. I don't know if that's going to be as easy. I've looked for, project management mentors and automation mentors. There's a lot of busy people. And then cannabis is also a little interesting, which we'll get into down the road. But essentially, if you can find a mentor, find somebody who can give you some advice that's already done it, especially if you're in an emerging market. I've had people reach out to me from Georgia and just kind of quickly give them a couple pieces of advice or whatever. But a lot of these gaps are filling up, right? If you thought you were going to be a broker and now there's all these e-commerce stores, how are you going to pivot to stay relevant? So definitely find a mentor that can kind of help you with that transition.
Yeah, let's face it, finding somebody who's good and isn't too busy, right, is a fine balance. And at the same time, you got to give to get. So maybe you help them some, they help you some, they teach you a few things. I know some people like that, Chronic. You're a teacher.
If I had the time, I'm busy. Going to Canada soon. So there's an airline up there that's going to be transporting plants and product coast to coast. So going up there to check that out, as well as the International Cannabis Business Conference. I've got an interview set up with the CEO. Be there for the VIP event, the financial pre-conference. And so it should be a good event. A lot of things going on in Canada as well. I'm an advisor for Taboo, Canadian-based company looking to get into California, about to go public this month. Very exciting. So you
got time to mentor.
Oof.
You got nothing but time.
Good luck. That's my advice. Or number 3, ask for referrals. So definitely, if you're out there, I would take a piece of advice from Gary V. Jab, jab, right hook means give, then ask. So if you just kind of come out there and say, I need some help, I need referrals, well, what value do you have? You have to come out there and provide some insight, some value, offer something, and then ask.
Yeah, and, axiomatic, right? Truly foundational in life and in business. Go illustrate that you're worthwhile and useful before you start begging for stuff.
Right. We do that all the time. We don't go to people unless we can add value, and people take our calls. I get like a 60 to 70% open rate on 1,500 emails. People, they know I'm not spamming them. They know I'm adding value, and that comes with reputation. That comes with offer value, then ask for something. You'll get a lot more response that way.
Yeah.
Number 4, set goals and milestones. If you don't envision something, how are you going to manifest that? How are you going to create it if you don't know what you're going to do? I created a business plan for the Seattle Super Chronic Cafe and then realized after it was done that it was garbage because I didn't have a menu. How can you set a business plan around food if you haven't even created your menu yet? Right. So if you can't have milestones and set goals, how are you going to get to that end product, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Is you want to manifest and create your own destiny. Think about what you want, think about how it's going to be done, and then hold yourself accountable to those goals and milestones.
Mom used to tell me, Dan, see it, be it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you got to see where you're going to go. Geez, I'm going to manage a big department. I'm going to run a big company. I'm going to be a freelance whatever. You got to see it, and then you got to be it.
Yeah, I thought my football coaches were just superstitious, and then realized that all of the meditation before the game, envisioning the plays and your performance and the outcome, yeah, worked for us. And so I've taken that kind of meditation and manifestation into business, and I'm creating my own destiny. I need some accountability though. Things are busy, things are crazy. Got to set goals and realistic milestones. Number 5 is making a splash. That's kind of obvious, but if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. And so leveraging all of your assets, all of your resources, your marketing, and just come out strong.
Go make some noise. Make some noise.
Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to use a $99 press release, maybe underutilized.
Yeah.
Never stop doing your research. Things are crazy in this industry. And so according to this Benzinga article that's reporting on the MJ Business Daily, so you have to remain very flexible and engaged as the changes occur in the industry. They're fast and constant. The growth of the plant, things change in legislation, and the languages vary by state or even zip code. You have to know how to pivot. Definitely. I always say you have to pivot to stay relevant. It happens all the time. Things are crazy. We always say that, this just last year, Washington State tried to change a rule for edibles would have affected 3/4 of the market because of colors and shapes of edibles. So if you're not flexible, if you've spent a ton of money on labeling and you can't pivot to make those changes, you could go out of business. A lot of people can't afford a $40,000 change order.
Yeah, you got to be moneyed up to stay in this game. It's still, the level of chaos in the cannabis industry is, I would say extreme, right? And in turn, if you are not in a place to be able to react, which typically has a lot to do with both resource and, frankly, your mental state, okay, to accept complexities, then it might not be the game for you right now.
Definitely stay curious. If you're not doing your research, you're not going to stay, ahead of the game. I've known people that have been doing this for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and I'm surprised when I talk to them on the Talking Hedge, how kind of out of touch they are. I guess they're in their own little bubble, right? They're busy, they're very successful, they're making millions, but they just don't really know what's going on because they're so busy. So I would try to put a half a day on a Friday to stay relevant. Keep doing your research, stay curious.
Sure. Well, and if you're making millions, good on you. It's a whole nother deal when you're incurious and you're not making millions. And at that level, that tells you, you know what? I shouldn't be in this industry. If you're not passionate to go learn the new things every damn day, then again, this is one of these industries where there's so much emergent information that, geez, I went to that conference 3 months ago. You're out of date. So you have to be in order to succeed. And again, if you're already successful, hey, you do it your way. But if you're planning on, if you're coming in, recognize that having, a marathon running mentality while you sprint is critical. You got to have the energy to stay in and stay curious. You have to.
Bring that curiosity on over to the Talking Hedge. We do all that research for you.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that you're representing a controversial industry. Number 7 on the top 7 things, pieces of advice if you want to get into the industry, is just remember that it's a controversial industry. So you're going to be working hard, but there's going to be some stereotypes. You're trying to create a positive perception, though. So always bring professionalism and normalization to cannabis.
Yeah, recognize that, again, depending on how it all goes, you might literally lock yourself out of some other industries for a little while, right? If your last position was, director of IT at XYZ Cannabis Company, okay, you might find yourself going over to Hobby Lobby and, submitting an app and having them say, yeah, no, right? Understand that, again, coming into this industry, yeah, have a plan, recognize that the opportunity is there, but also understand, like they say, there is a little bit of stigma still with some of the plant, depending on who you're hanging with. None of my pals, though, right, Chronic?
There's been a lot of turnover in the industry. And so I think there's probably people that have a laid back attitude. And the article even says that they've seen people expect a laid back free for all instead of a system with procedures and regulations. And the ability to follow rules and regulations is huge in the industry, as it's still an industry with a negative stigma, end quote. And so that just kind of hits it right there. Is a lot of turnover because people think it's just, you're smoking, it's hanging out, when in fact, this is a heavily regulated industry. I came from banking, worked for a stockbroker, and there's a lot of people who aren't going to understand if there's a reverse takeover or IPO, that could increase your compliance from one person to 2 dozen. I mean, I've seen it. And it's a huge requirement. If you're not ready for it, if you think this is all reggae and laid back, you're going to be shocked and disappointed.
So who's that article from?
This article is from Benzinga.
All right. Well, I'll just close with this something personally. A lot of that's all what I would consider base level foundation. That doesn't have to do with cannabis business. That has to do with business. How do you enter any business? Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to work, right? And go and be curious and be passionate. That's any business. But it is also cannabis business, which is ironic because it is the Talking Hedge, your cannabis business podcast.
So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge, your cannabis business podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.